So it looks like we have updates in regards to Final Fantasy VII Remake's exclusivity status as well as Final Fantasy XVI, and it's coming from Microsoft of all places. So before we get into the news, if you guys could click the like and subscribe button if you like what you hear and you want to stay up to date with Final Fantasy news, that would be greatly appreciated. So this information is coming to us from Windows Central, and in it they're talking about the troubles that Microsoft has been facing trying to acquire Activision Blizzard. So if you guys are not in the know, for the past year or so, Microsoft has been trying really hard to acquire the publishing/developer company Activision Blizzard. And there's been tons of regulators that have come out and pushed back on this deal, including the FTC, as well as companies like Sony, claiming that Microsoft getting this company would make an unfair landscape for gaming, and it would give them an unfair advantage, and it would hurt customers in the long run. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there with that statement, regardless of how you feel. But things are starting to get interesting because with all of this lawsuit stuff going on, Microsoft at times has to make themselves look kind of bad and point out all of the positives of Sony so that way they can make themselves look better, so that way their chances of acquiring Activision Blizzard are much higher. So in a most recent CMA filing from Microsoft, they actually reveal that Sony has entered these agreements with third parties to purposely exclude Microsoft and the Xbox platforms, meaning that those third-party games would not show up on an Xbox system because of Sony. And in that CMA filing, they do mention a few games, one of them being Final Fantasy VII Remake, as well as Final Fantasy XVI. They also do mention Bloodborne and the Silent Hill 2 remaster. Now, just for clarification here, I feel like Microsoft mentioning Bloodborne is a little bit misleading because although Bloodborne is a third-party developed game, being developed by From Software, if I'm not mistaken, the Bloodborne IP is actually owned and controlled by Sony. So it's their property. They can pretty much do with it what they want. So Microsoft complaining about that seems a little bit misleading to me. That would be like Sony coming out and complaining that games like Halo or Gears of War are never coming to Xbox because Microsoft is holding them hostage on their platforms. And it's like, yeah, those are two Microsoft-owned IPs. They can do with them what they want. They're never coming to PlayStation. So I felt like that was a little bit misleading of them to mention Bloodborne, but that's not the main news story. The news story here is that Microsoft has seemingly confirmed that Final Fantasy VII Remake, and by proxy its entire trilogy, as well as Final Fantasy XVI, are in fact permanent PlayStation exclusives, barring releases on the PC. Now, when Final Fantasy VII first released, it did have a one-year timed exclusive deal, and after that year was up, it was assumed that the game would eventually hit Xbox as well as PC. Well, 2 years later, it has released on PC, but there was no word on an Xbox release, and based on this CMA filing, those of you who are huge Final Fantasy fans and have Xboxes and were waiting for this franchise to hit your console, it looks like that's not going to happen, and you're going to have to get your hands either on a beefy PC or a PlayStation 5 to play these games. As for Final Fantasy XVI, if I remember correctly, when that was first revealed, they did make a mistake in the trailer by announcing that the game would eventually hit PC. So we did a video a few months ago talking about Final Fantasy XVI's exclusivity window and when it would be up, and if I remember correctly, it had a 6-month window of exclusivity, and afterwards myself and many others speculated that after that date it would most likely come to places like Xbox and PC. But again, based on this filing, it looks like even 16 is going to remain a console exclusive to PlayStation platforms, and then eventually it will hit PC. So this is something we've been speculating for a long time. Where is 7 Remake on Xbox? Is it even coming to Xbox? And based on this CMA filing, it looks like no. That unfortunately it will not hit those consoles, which does suck. These games are great. I can't speak for 16 yet because it's not out, but 7 Remake is fantastic. What they're going to do with Rebirth is probably going to be amazing as well. So for Xbox players to not be able to experience that unless they get a PlayStation platform is unfortunate. unfortunate, but that's just kind of how things are working these days. So that is pretty much the video. I am Curious Corduroy. Please leave any of your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you a huge Final Fantasy fan that has an Xbox that doesn't have a PlayStation? And were you waiting for 7 Remake and its trilogy, and maybe even Final Fantasy 16 to hit the Xbox platform? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.